Live and online, it's Sleepless with Steve and the Movie Book Club with your host, Steve Pulaski.
One, go.
Back and better than ever, Sleepless with Steve, live on YouTube on this Wednesday evening, wherever you may be, however you may be listening to us. We are live and in living color. It is the gruesome twosome. Today, our compadre Dominic Guanzon needs a Wednesday off. Maybe it's attributable to the god-awful heat that we're experiencing right now because it is hot. Capital H hot out there today. It is where I'm at in eastern Iowa. It's about 98 degrees. And heat index is probably around 120, I think I saw on the news about half an hour ago, 120. And it is the hottest I remember it in some time because it's hard to even breathe out there. And I'm sure it's not much better by where you're at, Joe.
No, it is, oh my God, man. It's going to be 100 tomorrow, I'll say that. And we're only a little bit underneath that right now. So, one of my friends texted me. She's like, my pool's open tomorrow for the hottest day we've gotten this year, so come through if you're available. And you best believe I'm going to be waiting in line outside of her backyard.
Yeah, I was talking to Catherine today, and we were talking about how nice it would be to have a pool, but it's like that water's probably got to be like bath water too.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And like I took a shower a couple hours ago, and I feel like I need another one. Like it's really like it's wild. Like, you know, when it's some days it's like so cold, like if you stand near a wall it's cold.
Yeah.
Like I feel like in here I air condition it to like 67 degrees, but like it's only at like 73 because it can't keep up.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's gonna be about the same level of heat tomorrow too. It's bad. It is bad.
I'm not looking forward to. I mean, I'm glad like it's gonna cool down eventually, but it's just like. As much as I'm not looking forward to the winter, I do hate these days as well, where it's like, okay, it's unbearably hot. There's a great TikTok I saw a few days ago. It's like weather in the Midwest, and it's like January, February, March, the person's like, I can't stand this winter weather anymore. April and May, they're like, okay, well, summer's right around the corner. And then June, they're like, oh, dude, this is perfect. July, this is great. August, all right, it's getting a little bit too hot. September, it's fall, and they're like, oh, this is perfect. And it goes in October, it's like, man, if it could stay like this forever, like, this is great. It hits November, and it's like winter again. Like, I want to kill myself.
Well, that's the tragedy. Is we only get like maybe 2 months out of the year where it's like really ideal. In my opinion, it's like early September to mid to late October when it's really nice outside. Like hoodie, I always said hoodie weather's the best weather, between like 40 and 65 for me.
Yeah.
Like I do not mind a chilly air, you know what I mean? Like you throw on a nice like cozy hoodie and stuff, you're not sweating, you're not freezing, you're just chilling. That's the happy medium.
Yeah.
But we got a great show here today. We are talking about National Cinema Day coming back, which is exciting stuff for moviegoers too, especially at a time when there is quite a bit out, and there's going to be 2 new releases this week as well. So hopefully gets another boon to the box office, especially in the next couple of months too, when release dates are getting really sketchy. There's a lot of things getting thrown around and jostled release date wise just because of the writer's strike and such. You have that happening. So we're going to talk National Cinema Day. Not a huge topic, but one I think is worth, drawing some awareness to and stuff. So we're going to get onto that. And then we are also reviewing Strays today, the brand new R-rated comedy featuring talking dogs. A high level of art, high level of entertainment when it comes to the talking dog cinema over here too. The R-rated Beverly Hills Chihuahua. That's exactly what this thing is. Raja Gosnell would be proud. If I still had a close relationship with the director of the Scooby-Doo movies, I'd love to call up Raja Gosnell and get 5 minutes of his opinion on Strays if he's even seen it. With that all being said, though, Joe, how are you, though, doing? Besides braving the heat, braving the temperatures, how are you, my friend?
I'm back in the trenches. Class has started once again. So that week I had off, barely felt like anything. This is the hardest class of my semester. So hopefully it'll be okay. It's about budgeting and financial management in local government organizations. And look, I suck with math, so none of this interests me at all.
Sure.
Every other course, at least up to this point, had something interesting for me to like look into, like problem solving, issues or anything. No, this is straight up just all about numbers and talking about numbers. And it's like, man, maybe if Nolan directed it, like he made, atoms interesting and everything and energetic. So maybe if he was teaching this class, but we have 4 professors teaching this class. And so far, it's day 3 right now, and they have sent us 5 changes to the syllabus, as well as like the course overall. And it's like, did any of you guys have this stuff ready before like the class officially launched? I mean, for God's sakes, there's 4 of you, but that's neither here or there. And I don't want to keep talking before like it turns out one of my professors tunes in for a stream one night for some reason.
That's tough. Every time you talk about school, you make me glad that I'm not in it anymore. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not gonna lie on that. Yeah, aside from Braving the Heat, just going to a bunch of different shows, a lot of different things. I mean, I was looking even to next month. I have like a live broadcast every single week for the most part. Sheesh. I think I'm working like 13 days in a row at one point, something like that. Like it's the busy time of the year is extending well into September for me. But had a great time. Me and my girlfriend went and saw Jelly Roll on Sunday night. That was a friggin' blast. One of my all-time favorite concerts, easily. Nice. Great show, and it was kind of a shock that we got him. Like, we got him right at the time before he really took off. When he released Son of a Sinner, his song to country radio, his first country hit, he took off pretty majorly. And then Need a Favor, his follow-up single in January, became so huge, and that's like right when we booked him. You know what I mean? So, like, it was just a real confluence of events. Because right now, it's like he's performing in front of 25,000 person sold-out shows.
Oh, damn.
And, like, we got him, like, I think a lot of people knew this show sold out within a day when tickets went on sale. I feel like people knew that this was going to be, like, the last opportunity to see him, the first and only opportunity to see him locally. And it just wound up being a great show. Probably the most produced show at the venue we saw it at, man. It was 92 degrees that night. It was like 92 out. He brought the fire cannons, the pyrotechnics, everything, man. It was hot.
Jesus Christ.
I mean, we were like kind of like corner right of the stage too. So, I mean, it was hot. Great show. We both had a good time. So that was definitely the highlight of the weekend for sure for both of us.
Okay. That's awesome though.
We'll move forward, though, because I'm not going to lie, and this kind of shows where I stand right now with Strays. It was a dour weekend at the movies, though, to say the very least.
Yeah.
It was a dour weekend. I saw Strays. I saw Back to the Strip, which be glad I'm not making you review Back to the Strip.
I read your Back to the Strip review based on your caption you had with your review.
Oh, yes, about how the usher forgot that it was even there.
Yeah.
Dude, it was 8:30 at night. It was like the latest movie I've ever gone to because it was for a brand new movie, one show time, 8:30 at night for this thing. And I went out Friday night. It was in a completely empty theater, and it's going on my worst list. It's going on my worst list. And the depth of talent involved in that thing for it to be as bad as it was shocking.
This seems like one of those weekends we used to have back on the radio show where we saw 3 movies. Sometimes, if you ever kept up with the radio show, Steve and I just sometimes did 3-peats where we would go see 3 movies that weekend. Thanks to MoviePass, it just, was easy.
Yeah.
And there'd be weekends where it's just like, yeah, all 3 movies were just mediocre. Never as bad as the Breaking In, Life of the Party, and Woody the Woodpecker. Holy shit, I wanted to retire from the fucking show after that weekend.
That was that was probably the worst weekend. Yeah, Breaking In with Gabrielle Union, Life of the Party, and Woody Woodpecker. Yeah. That was probably the worst weekend of movies. This wasn't quite that bad.
No,
this wasn't quite that bad. And then the third one I didn't mention was Blue Beetle, which we're talking about next week too.
Yeah.
Which I realize I'm in the minority on because I didn't read any reviews of that, and then I came out of it feeling how I felt, and then I looked. I'm like, this thing's got a 76 on Rotten Tomatoes.
I will be seeing it. I'm seeing it for National Cinema Day. My friends want to go see it in IMAX for $4, so I'm like, all right, yeah, I'll go. I mean, shit, it's not gonna cost me anything because we're gonna go see it at AMC. But yeah, man. So I'll see where I lie on that film because I'm kind of curious too because as I grew up knowing the character, but I always felt it was weird to give him his own movie at this point where it's like, this just doesn't make any sense. Like, why would you bring him in now out of all places? So I was just kind of like curious to see how the movie holds up. And Yeah, seeing the good reception's great, but like I believe it or not, I've heard people say similar to what you're saying, where they're in the minority, being like, I mean, this is kind of just your run-of-the-mill superhero movie.
Yeah, there's a lot of meat on the bone though to talk about that. I'm looking forward to chatting about it next week because it is an interesting case.
Which I will not be here for, unfortunately.
Yeah, you're not going to be here. I just remembered that you're not going to be here, sadly, to chime in on that. But you know what? $4 for National Cinema Day, man, that's not a bad deal. I mean, I'd rationalize it as paying $4 for air conditioning at that point. that's how I would rationalize that purchase. But we'll jump into Strays. Why not? I've been seeing trailers of this movie forever for what it feels like. This movie's been, I think the trailer's been airing since I want to say like April. Which doesn't seem like that long of a frame of time, but I guess when you A, go to the movies as regularly as I do, and B, now it's really not uncommon for trailers of movies. Like the Exorcist trailer dropped last month. That comes out in October.
Yeah.
It's not really uncommon now for movie trailers to come out just a couple of months before the actual movie. And Strays got delayed. So Strays was supposed to come out in early June and then got delayed to August. So I guess that kind of compounded the feeling of me feeling like I've seen this trailer forever. But this thing has sold itself from the jump as an R-rated, very vulgar talking dog movie. The movie is essentially kind of like the R-rated Homeward Bound Beverly Hills Chihuahua movie about a dog who named Reggie, voiced by Will Ferrell, who gets ousted really by his owner, who loves Will Forte, who loves to drive to the countryside and chuck his tennis ball, yards away, and then leave the dog stranded in hopes the dog never finds his way back. But Reggie always does until one day he doesn't, and then he links up with fellow dogs. There is a Bug, voiced by Jamie Foxx. He's in the mix. You also have Hunter, voiced by Randall Park, director of Shortcomings, Randall Park, I might add. And Isla Fisher, who voices Maggie. They're stray dogs, and they're trying to teach Reggie that Doug, Will Forte's character, doesn't want him and that he's got to live the life of a stray now. Mm-hmm. But instead, Reggie decides, this is such a gripping narrative, that Reggie decides to go back to find Doug, get home to find Doug, and bite his dick off. That is the plot of the movie Strays. It's very high art we're going to talk about right here on the show. This thing has sold itself as what it wants to be, a vulgar R-rated dog movie. I mean, have you seen the posters of this thing? Where Bug, Jamie Foxx's dog, has the R rating, the R rating hanging out of his mouth. Like, you know what's so funny? And I bet I could find it if I did some Googling right now. But it reminded me of the movie. Do you remember the movie Paul with Simon Pegg?
Yes, with Seth Rogen as the alien.
The alien. There was a standee at the theater because it looked like, there's a cute little alien in the movie and stuff. It was Simon Pegg and the other guy who's in those movies, Hot Rod, Nick Frost. Thank you, Nick Frost. Simon Pegg and Nick Frost, they were standing. It's one of the big cardboard standees, and I remember they were like looking at the alien like this. They were looking at him, and Paul had his, like, he was turned to be like face the audience. He has the ass out, and there's one, he's holding the R rating. He's holding the R rating to, like, draw attention to the fact that this is not a kids movie. I believe Sausage Party had the same thing too. Because these are these are movies that, like, if you're ignorant and you don't pay attention to, like, like trailers or like paratext or anything, you could really easily be fooled into thinking these are kid movies.
Yeah.
And they're not. And Strays makes that evident right off the bat. Where I'm going with this, though, is that I can't fault the movie for promising what it ultimately does deliver, which is foul-mouthed dogs behaving badly. And the dogs are real. Their voices and their mouths were animated via the use of CGI, which does look credible. It does look good.
Yes.
But at the same time, though, like, I also wish this movie had, like, higher ambition. And that's the crossroads I'm at with this. It's only about 86 minutes long. It's not very long of a movie. I just wish it had more ambition and maybe a little bit more heart, especially just 2 months ago. I think 2 months to the day, actually, we got No Hard Feelings with Jennifer Lawrence, which looked like your run-of-the-mill, average kind of lame sex comedy until it wasn't, and until it was something a little bit deeper, which pushed it over the edge for me. That's kind of my general thoughts on Strays. What about you?
I completely agree. I was, it's not like I was going to this movie really looking forward to it. But after the year of comedies that we've gotten so far, especially the strong ones that we had over the summer with No Hard Feelings and Joyride, I kind of went into this hoping like, all right, well maybe this will be like a triple crown like finisher right here, or like maybe this will be the one to be like, hey, here we go, like, you know, this year over the summer, like, hey, maybe some of the blockbusters weren't that great, like, you know, a little bit disappointing, but at least the comedies were top notch. No, unfortunately, one did stick out from the rest, and it is Strays. The one that, like, probably I should have known better that it was going to probably the one that's just like, yeah, this is all that it is. Which isn't a bad thing. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying this is a bad movie. It is just kind of like, I'm in Steve's camp of, I really wish you pushed yourself a little bit more. Like, I wanted to see you do just a bit more than just, hey, isn't it funny when this dog says fuck? And it's like, sure, it is funny every once in a while, especially when Jamie Foxx says it. I'm laughing my ass off. But after a while, it's kind of just like, okay, all right. Especially, like, you know, when we get the cameos of other voices in the movie, when they're swearing up a storm and all this other stuff, it's just like, okay, yeah, no, this is not as funny as you guys are making it out to be, really. What I was really surprised by, too, and this is kind of why when you sent us the trailer, and I mentioned this when we were talking about it in the green room way back when you sent this trailer.
Yeah.
I said, I'm like, I actually might, like, have high hopes for this, because the guy that directed one of your favorite movies of 2021, Barb and Star Go to Vista Del Mar, directed this, as well as Phil Lord and Chris Miller produced it. And it's like, you know, whenever I see their name attached to a project, it's like, hey, these guys always got something up their sleeve. You know, especially when they're directing, but even producing, they usually, like, you know, have something, like, you know, good to show. But nah, man, like with this one, it was like, it's exactly what it set out to do, but it's like, I was kind of hoping with the talent we had here, it might go above and beyond a bit, like, you know, and do something else, like, but no, it's just, yeah, it's foul-mouthed dogs, and that's about it, really.
Well said. And some people might wonder, I should probably save this for the closing statement, but I might just reiterate it then. Some people might wonder how I can give like a really high approval rating and like a really, you know, good score. Like I think I gave it like 3. I think I gave it 3 out of 4, but was almost bridging on like 3.5 to like Cocaine Bear, another movie Phil Lord and Christopher Miller produced. And I think the difference there is that like Cocaine Bear, yes, it delivered on what it promised. But the one thing I wasn't really expecting from Cocaine Bear, and I'm sad to hear of it being kind of a negative, like lobbied against the movie, is the strength of the character ensemble and all the different like generations of actors that got together on that set, and that like the writers of it really let the characters breathe, and kind of like operate on their own sort of planes and their own tangents and such. I thought that was really well done and something unexpected, and that pushed it over the edge for me, even though, you know, it wasn't without its faults in its own way. With this movie, though, it's like, I think we all kind of expected, if not, like the trailer definitely confirmed it, but, you know, we expected, like, you know, dogs humping couches to be part of a joke. You know, we expected that. But it is, I think it's just the low-hanging fruit that this movie so consistently goes after when it comes to humor.
Yeah.
It doesn't build on much. It doesn't really try to be anything other than the predictable scatological jokes, the weed, dick, poop, and fart jokes for the most part. And like, man, there is a lot of shit jokes in this movie.
There is,
like,
yeah.
it, like any humor derived from it, it pretty much expires like quickly, given like that is really what the writer Dan Perrault really goes after in this movie, is like the shit humor and the couch humping humor, particularly from Jamie Foxx's Bug.
Yeah, I will say though, with Jamie Foxx's Bug, I mean, I don't know if you felt the same way. I felt like he was at least the thing. Every single time his character was on screen, I was laughing my ass off. I thought,
I agree. He's the funniest.
Yeah. His voice acting in this movie, just the way he delivers lines, it's lines that you hear and you're like, anybody else that would deliver that probably wouldn't be able to sell it. But Jamie Foxx just has enough energy to lines sometimes that it's like, dude, this is why like you're one of my favorite actors. Like, have you seen the movie that recently came to Netflix? They cloned Tyrone.
I've not. No, I have really like, especially after Bird Box Barcelona, I've really put my blinders onto Netflix movies. But no, I've heard mixed to positive things about that movie, They Clone Tyrone.
I think you would like They Clone Tyrone. I mean, I think you would. Don't hate me if you come out of it and you're like, why'd you make me watch that? But I think you would enjoy that, especially for Jamie Foxx's performance alone. And in this movie, I mean, like, don't get me wrong. I think Isa Fisher, Farrell, and even Randall Park, they do a great job too. Don't get me wrong. I love Randall Park's dog. He has a cone around his neck throughout like the movie, and he's like a therapy dog and everything.
He's such a Randall Park dog. If you know Randall Park, he's
really
such a
is.
Randall Park dog. Like, they did a pretty good job of these. I will say, and we can talk maybe more about this after the break too. The voice acting here is really good.
It is. It actually
the
really
voice
is.
acting here is good. And the thing is, Will Ferrell, who it's one of my most controversial opinions among my close circle of friends. I am not a Will Ferrell fan. I'm not. But I will say is that, like, he's got that perfect tone of voice that's, like, gullible and, like, curious and kind of, like, innocent.
Yeah.
He's got that tone of voice that really sells Reggie's character. So I thought he did great work here. I thought he was perfectly cast.
He was, yeah. I think all four of them are perfectly cast. It's just like, if they're not really given much to do other than swear in the script, it's like like it's not their fault as a performer. It's just like, hey, look, you're just doing what you're paid to do, really. It really sucks because it's just like, man, like, you guys really do have the talent here with at least this core four of people. And it sucks that it's just kind of just them just going through the motions, but just for some reason, yeah, Jamie Foxx, man, when there's a moment where he tells like a dog to go F himself. And just the way he delivers it, it's just like, man, that's so damn good. And coming out of his dog especially, like, he's got the little pointy ears and everything. It's like, it just fit that dog so well.
Yeah, the dog that's like you think is all bark, no bite.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
You know what made me realize I wanted more from this movie? It was actually a scene. It's one of the best scenes, I think, in the movie. And I think it's one of the funniest scenes in the movie, and you might have already forgotten about it. It is the scene when it's scraps night, when it's the night when, like, the garbage gets taken out and there's pizza and there's beer in the garbage and the dogs start raiding it when the strays eat. It's the scene when they go to the dog's house and the dog is in the yard with the invisible fence.
Yeah.
That is a great scene, and let me tell you why that's a great scene. It's a great scene because, like, the joke works for multiple reasons. It gives, like, it takes time to build the scene, like about a minute or two, where it's like this dog is petrified from crossing, like, over into the sidewalk because he knows he's gonna get shocked, and everybody's like, "There's no fence." The dogs are like, "There's no fence. You can jump it. There's no," and then Reggie's running in slow motion to go jump over, and it's not gonna affect him because he doesn't have the collar on.
Yeah.
But the funny line that got me to laugh my ass off in that scene was when the dog who's in the yard tells him don't fool around with the dark magic. Like, and it's funny though, like, it works, it's set up, and then it's like, then there's the slow motion of the dog. What is it, pit bull? He's like, he's running to cross the fence in slow motion, and there's like this build up, what's gonna happen, and like, I like that, and I'm like, I don't want to give credit or attribution because it was probably Peralt, the screenwriter, who came up with it, but, like, in that moment I remember thinking, like, this really feels like Lord and Miller were like, it'd be funny, like, it feels, it's like in the movie Super 8 when you could tell where Spielberg kind of told J.J. Abrams, like, this shot would look great.
Yeah.
Like, you could feel like when the producer became the director in certain moments in a way. I'm not saying that's what happened here, but that's what it felt like, because it feels like Phil Lord and Christopher Miller were like, why don't you try to do this, like, dog fence scene here? It's funny. It takes a little bit of build up. And then I hate to say it, but then, like, later on in the production meetings, they were like, let's do a close up of a dog's dick, and then that's the kind of duality you get with this movie. You get what I'm saying? Like, that magical fence scene, as I think I called it in my review, StevePulaski.com. That magical fence scene, I think, is really like what I'm talking about when this movie should have aimed higher in its ambition. That's the kind of scene I wanted more of.
You bring up such a good point because, like, in dog comedies, we typically see the run-of-the-mill hump, the mailman, and peeing and pooing. Like, that's typically what it is.
Even in kid movies.
With the invisible fence, that is something that's not really done too often in dog comedies. And you get stuff like where they do some outlandish stuff. Like I think the scene where they eat the mushrooms is funny. I love the incorporation of different like looks of the dogs too. One's animated, one's a puppet with human hands and everything. I think that's funny and everything. So when you have, and then the K9 drug dog comes along. I
probably could have got 1 million likes on Letterboxd if I would have thought of this at the time. Instead, I posted my review like a real nerd, but I should have said that scene was like, it should have been called Into the Strays verse. Probably could have got 1 million likes on Letterboxd for that. Anyway, continue.
Oh my God. Everything, everywhere, all strays at once. I don't know. But what was I going to say? So like, you have like those outlandish R-rated scenes where, they do drugs and everything. And it's like, some of those scenes work and they like, they work in comparison with the isn't that really cute, but we're doing it like in a comical sense of the invisible fence too. Okay, that's just raunchy, but it's funny. And it's like you have an equal balance of the raunchiness is done so good and these cute moments of like dog humor are done so good too that it could have been a better movie. But instead, like you're saying, like it's a close up of a dog's dick, close up of something else, them drinking beer, which I was just kind of like, all right, I mean, like that's not that funny, like it's no different. I mean, like, yeah, sure. It's they're yelling at the mirror of themselves and everything, but sure. I really wish they did more stuff like that. I feel like you could find so much more like dog humor today more than ever. Like the whole thing of like you have like some, and this is because I know this stuff because I'm like a dog owner. But we have like devices that like can shoot treats out of the machine periodically to keep your dog entertained and everything. And it's like I would have loved if they would have done like a whole scene of that. Like they go into like a dog's house, the owners aren't home, and they're like, what the hell is that thing? And they're like, oh man, that thing shoots treats every once in a while.
Automatic feeders that have like cameras where people can watch their dogs.
And they can fight. They all fight over the treat. Like it shoots out. They all get excited and they all like fight over the treat and everything. Like there's so much other stuff that like came to my mind while watching this movie. Just that I know from just watching dog commercial ads of being an owner myself, as well as just like stuff that's like they never really do this in dog movies that like this movie itself kind of did, like The Invisible Fence. It really sucks it doesn't go that extra mile, and I feel like that's just kind of what I've been echoing throughout this review. And I know some people might be like, well, it's the R-rated dog movie, and it's like, yeah, but I also saw the R-rated sex comedy that went above and beyond, and the R-rated road comedy that also went above and beyond with its characters. I wish this did the same.
I completely agree there. Yeah, that's the problem with this movie, I think, ultimately, is just that it's like, it's marred by low ambition. Yeah. And there's nothing wrong with that. Like, if you want an 86-minute movie where dogs curse, that's what you're going to get. That's why I'm not like, I don't hate this movie. I don't think it's one of the worst movies of the year by any means, but it's mediocre. And it's like, and I had more expectations for it through and through. I do want to bring up a couple more points because there are a couple things I did like about this movie though that I do want to highlight too. We will touch on that. We're butting up against the intermission here. We will take our very brief Zoom-sponsored intermission here. We're going to come on back, finish up our dialogue on Strays, and then we are also going to tackle National Cinema Day. Still more to go on the second half of Sleepless with Steve. Do not go anywhere. We'll be back in about 60 to 90 seconds live on YouTube. It is Sleepless with Steve. Back and better than ever, Sleepless with Steve. After our Zoom-sponsored intermission, we are talking Strays, a little ahead of schedule, too, so we took a little bit of a longer intermission to gather our thoughts. We are back here talking about Strays. I wanted to say there's a couple things about this movie that I did like. Rob Riggle, who's the voice of the canine dog, one of the canine dogs in this movie, thought he was great. Thought he was really good. He's in 2 scenes, crushes both of them. Thought he was really funny. And I almost want to say the line out of context. There was one line towards the tail end, pun intended, of the movie that I lost it. I had tears in my eyes. Should I say it? I think with that endorsement, I should probably say it. It's not a plot. It's not going to ruin anything. There's no spoilers.
Go ahead and say it.
It's the line at the end when they're at the dog park and the dogs are humping each other, and the one guy goes to the old lady. He goes, "That reminds me of me when I was young," and she goes, "You used to fuck dogs."
That was a good one, yeah.
I had tears in my eyes.
That was a good one to end on.
Way to save the best line of the whole damn thing that wasn't even recited by a dog.
That is true too, yeah.
To the very end. That was almost, you know what, and this was a worse movie than Strays, but it was I always hate when a movie I give 2 stars or lower has one scene that I die laughing at.
Yeah.
It was the scene in Dirty Grandpa, and I've referenced this before with Danny Glover when he's in the nursing home watching Alf, and Alf blows up a building in the TV, and he goes, "Fuck him up, Al." And, I hate it when there's it's a bad movie and there's one scene in it that makes me die laughing. If I were to make a top 10 funniest scenes of the year, I might put that line on there. I laughed so hard at it.
That scene also had me laughing my ass off. Because I at least was leaving the theater chuckling, and it's hey man, at least you ended the end of the movie on a positive note. Because there's been comedies where I'm teeter-tottering on it, okay, it wasn't that bad, but it wasn't that good. And then the last scene will play out, and it's a terrible way to end the movie. I'm nah, fuck that movie. Can I say another positive that I liked? I mean,
go for it. Yeah.
He's not a positive person in this movie, but I thought Will Forte was a great fucking villain.
Yes. I read a review after I wrote mine. I can't remember who it was. I think it was a female writer for The Wrap. And she said, and she was a positive review, and she said, though, she's Will Forte embodies the type of character where if a dog, if a dog really did bite off his dick, you would be hard pressed not to say good boy to the dog.
That's a great way of putting it.
And it's a really good, because Will Forte is a prick.
He is. He's a piece of
shit
in this movie.
He is horrible. He looks dirty. He's a scumbag person in the movie, but he plays it well. He plays it very, very well throughout the whole thing.
Yeah, his there's so many times throughout the movie, especially the first 10 minutes where he's with Reggie. I'm just because I know it from the trailer. I'm I cannot wait for Reggie to come back home and bite this motherfucker. I was just I was laughing at times, of course, some of the cruelty things he would do to him, we've all seen the trailer, but the fetch and fuck, and everything. But there's other moments where I'm just this dude's just a scumbag. This dude just needs to be taught a lesson.
The acting, I go back and say the acting, even I don't think his scene is super funny, but I do think that his physical comedy that he brings to it makes it funny. I've always liked Brett Gelman. I've always thought Brett Gelman was pretty funny. Mm-hmm. He's done a lot of Adult Swim things. I think he was a Tim and Eric guy back in the day. I think he's a Tim and Eric alum. Brett Gelman is the guy who works at the Dog Pound.
Okay. I was I have no idea who you're talking about.
Yeah, Brett Gelman is the guy who works at the Dog Pound. He's appeared in a handful of indie movies like Lemon and The Comedian, and stuff like that. But everybody does well in this thing.
Yeah.
And I go back and I reiterate too, the voice acting is sharp in this movie. It's really well done. They chose these characters well. They wrote them well in terms of their types of dogs too. Yeah. I thought that was really well. This movie is really undone by the lack of ambition in its humor.
Yeah.
And the fact that it doesn't want to be much more than your stereotypical dogs behaving badly script. And I hate calling it a miss for Lord and Miller, but it really is. But like maybe in the midst of creating like Cocaine Bear and Across the Spider-Verse, like these high concept comedies, they just kind of wanted a silly diversion, and there's nothing wrong with that.
No.
But even if you look, especially when it's not like Abomination, like this thing really isn't that bad. But I mean, if you look at like even what they did with, and maybe this is an unfair comparison, but you look at like what they did with 21 Jump Street, a mostly forgotten 80s show that there's no real tangible fandom attached to. It's like the Munsters with Rob Zombie.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There's really no fandom attached to that show in the modern day. So you might as well take it and run with it and make it something completely different and reboot and give it a true reboot. Don't just bring it back from the dead and make it loyal for the five, Munsters fans. Cough, cough, Rob Zombie. Like, go back and like make it. Still, the Munsters was one of the biggest missed opportunities of the last year, but that's beside the point. But like, that's the thing though, is like I just feel like there was a lot more to do with this that could have been funnier. And when you see morsels of it here, like in that magical fence scene, you really show where it's like, okay, this is the third couch Bug is going to screw over here, or this is like the third time shit is the centerpiece of a joke.
Yeah. And as much as it is a miss for Lord and Miller, they do have misses from time to time. It's just that when it sucks because like for every miss they have like 3 or 4 hits in a row that makes you forget about them. Like they had America the Motion Picture, or the shows like the Clone High reboot, which I think is amazing. And all this other stuff. So yeah, like this year, that not Clone High, Cocaine Bear, and Across the Spider-Verse, and then you get Strays. So it's like, yeah, for every like really good movie they have, it's like they do have one mediocre one that are just like one you just kind of roll your eyes at.
I totally agree. We can move into final thoughts on this. Like I said, I mean, it really doesn't work due to its low ambition, as I've said like 3 times now. It's unfortunate given how talented the cast is, though. And I go back and what I said earlier, I'm not a Will Ferrell fan. I'm really not. But he's very well cast as Reggie, as is Jamie Foxx as Bug, Isla Fisher as Maggie, and Randall Park as Hunter. The voice acting's on par. Will Forte's really good.
Yeah.
And there are a couple funny set pieces in this thing, but it overall just kind of amounts to a movie that is undone by the fact that it really just plays to the very, like, I think I used cheap seats in my review, but that's technically not the right analogy. Low-hanging fruit, that's more applicable. It's very much a low-hanging fruit, low-ambition comedy, and it's really undone by that. So it's 2 out of 4 stars for me. Your star rating, Joe?
I'm in the same boat. It is also 2 out of 4 stars for me as well. I mean, I'm echoing everything Steve said throughout this review, because I just felt the same way. And I think it's because just Steve and I were just, honestly, this year with comedies, just on the same wavelength as much as possible. Like, after I saw, because I wasn't here for it, I don't think you guys reviewed it, though. Did you guys review, No Hard Feelings on the show?
No, we didn't.
Okay.
Because that was butting right up against my vacation. We didn't touch that on the show.
That's right. I think we just had the week off. I think that's just what it was. But when I was on my hiatus to like handle school and everything, I did go see that movie just because I got assignments done early that week, and I was like, I should reward myself with something. And Steve told me how good the movie was. And I went to go see it, and just us talking and how like we talked about other comedies that are coming out, like Joyride and everything. It's like him and I just are on the same wavelength when it comes to just R-rated comedies and like, kind of what we like to see in them. And this, like, there's stuff that obviously both him and I like really like seeing, but just as, Steve said, his criticisms, I also have mine. It's just, other than like, like the high moments that we've talked about throughout this review, and those moments are really funny, and just how solid this cast is, it's really just kind of, it is just low-hanging fruit for the most part. And there's just scenes I just kind of sat there, like, quiet. But there's scenes, too, I had a good laugh from. That's how I know at least it is a decent comedy in some ways, because I'm at least laughing throughout the movie. If I was laughing only, like, first 10 minutes, and then from there on out it was quiet, or I just didn't laugh at all, that's how I know it's a bad comedy. But to make me just go, like, okay, once we're done with this scene, maybe the next one will be funnier. And usually it was. So for me, it is 2 out of 4 stars as well, just like I said. I do think that Will Ferrell, like, I'm a big fan of his and, like, everything. I've enjoyed Anchorman, Talladega Nights especially. But this is nowhere near that low, like, point of, like, Holmes and Watson and stuff like that, or
Oh, God,
or
no.
Get Hard with Kevin Hart, or Daddy's Home and Daddy's Home 2. It's nowhere near any of that.
No.
Like, there's actual material here for him to work, and he actually plays a character. He actually is both his performances this year, I have to say. Between this and Barbie, I had a lot of fun watching Will Ferrell again do his thing. But other than that, yeah, 2 out of 4 stars. Hopefully, next project this guy works on, I forgot the director's name. I hope it's more on par with Belle and Mar go to Vista Del Mar.
Barb and Star go to
Barb
Vista
and
Del
Star.
Mar.
Jesus Christ, I made a whole new movie.
God, that movie is still ungodly underrated.
And you know what? I'll wrap up with this too, and then we can move on to the next thing. I thought this movie was gonna be as outlandish as that movie was, and I was led into that with that drug scene too. I was like, dude, yeah, it's gonna get as weird as Barb and Star.
That's a once a decade kind of a movie, man.
Yeah,
that's
it
a
really
Barb
is.
and Star, like, man, that's a once a decade movie, and that's a reason it made my list of favorites that year. That's a once in a decade fever dream of a movie, the kind of movie you're in a situation like this, you have to remind yourself it exists, and it's so bold, it's so beautiful. I need to rewatch that movie again. Josh Greenbaum, double salute to you.
Yeah,
for
he's
getting
great.
that thing
He's great at what he does. I've seen his other stuff too, and he's good.
Top 10 worst things to happen to movies in during the pandemic was the fact that thing had to get relegated to video on demand.
You know what's weird too? I remember seeing that trailer when I went to go see No Way Home, but every release date I see says it came out in early 2021, and I'm just like, there's no way. Like, that definitely came out.
It did.
It came out.
It came out in February of 21. It came out in February of 21.
Dude, I don't know why.
You have a Mandela effect.
I'm telling you, dude. I remember turning to my friend while watching No Way Home because the trailer just made me go, "What the hell was that?" Dude, I have to go back in time. I have to build a time machine now.
There was a movie that I can't remember my buddy saw because it was back. Here's the thing. You have to remember this though. Barb and Star was supposed to go to theaters in July of 2020, I think. So there were trailers being shown before COVID. I don't remember what movie my two best friends went to go see, but I remember when they got out of it, my buddy texts me and he goes, when we saw this trailer for Barb and Star go to Vista Del Mar, we both looked at each other and said, Steve is so going to see that movie.
I'm trying to think too if I saw something
right.
in 2019 that it was that, but it's like I feel like that was still so early on. Dude, this is crazy.
It was 2021. It was 2021 when that movie, February.
I call cap on society, man. There's no way.
We shall move forward, though. Not going to take a ton of time on this topic, but do want to bring it to the attention of, actually, shout out to Joe, brought it to my attention. National Cinema Day is coming back.
Woo!
August 27th. It's a Sunday. It's the second year in a row they're doing this. It's courtesy of the nonprofit organization Cinema Foundation. They did a lot of great work during the pandemic and stuff.
Yeah.
I think I even saw them. They were one of the people. I feel like my wallet kept opening during the pandemic for more reasons than one. But I donated to a lot of different causes during the pandemic, and they were one of the ones I donated to. Was Cinema Foundation. Basically, National Cinema Day. All movies at 3,000 participating theaters are offering tickets for all shows, all formats. That includes standard, that includes caption, that includes Dolby, IMAX, D-Box. I think D-Box is still around.
Oh, shit. I should have thought about that. I should have went to go see something in D-Box.
I've never seen anything in D-Box. Fun fact. I remember Regal by us was one of the only places that had it.
I need to look up a D-Box theater by me. Maybe I convince my friends to go
because they had it. They had it. They had like if you remember Regal in Warrenville, they had a sample. At least they did before COVID, where you could sit in and test it out. And I remember my mother and I going to see "Won't You Be My Neighbor," the Mr. Rogers documentary. The Mr. Rogers documentary. We went to go see it, and we tested it out, whatever movie at the time was playing. We're both like, man, I can't stomach this for 2 hours. I can't stomach this for 2 hours. But you can select D-Box if you want to try it out for $4 too. September 3rd of last year, it was the Saturday of Labor Day weekend, and they tried to do it, I think, because Labor Day is traditionally a downtime for movies. There's very few. Labor Day is traditionally, historically, one of the worst movie weekends. Very little comes out. It's right down there, truthfully. Look it up statistically with the box office. It's right down there with Super Bowl weekend for worst weekends at the movie theater of the year.
Yeah.
And but it's still the Saturday of Labor Day weekend when tickets were $3. Shout out inflation, now they're $4. It brought 8.1 million people to theaters and grossed $24 million, which was up 8% from the previous Saturday and was the highest attended day for movies in 2022, which also really just shows you how slow things were a year ago.
I'm sorry. I'm so caught up on this D-Box thing. I did find a theater near me, and I'm contemplating going to see Gran Turismo in D-Box.
That would be a solid D-Box movie. Now, that would be, because, I mean, it's already a racing movie.
Yeah.
That would be a solid one, too. You also have there's a lot of stuff coming back to the theater for this, too, which is really cool that studios are getting on board and buying into this National Cinema Day, because Disney's Little Mermaid's coming back to theaters. Super Mario Brothers movies coming back to theaters. I saw my theaters got Jurassic Park, the original, back. Yeah. You have American Graffiti.
Actually, that's just doing a wide re-release because it's the 30th anniversary of Jurassic Park.
Oh, is that true? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes more sense. Greta Gerwig's Lady Bird is apparently throwing its hat in the ring for National Cinema Day too. So there's a lot coming back even too. And then this weekend you have Gran Turismo. I think Bottoms is only in select theaters from what I've gathered, the Rachel Sennett comedy. Bottoms is only in select theaters, and then you have The Hill, the Dennis Quaid movie that's coming out this weekend too. Obviously, you've got Barbie, Oppenheimer, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Mutant Mayhem, Sound of Freedom is still in theaters. I think it's still in over 2,000 theaters as well. Retribution, the Liam Neeson movie as well, which I don't give a damn about personally, but you could see that if you'd like. There's a lot in theaters. I think it's a really exciting time to go to the movies, and like I said, I'm just appreciating how crowded the theater is right now at this point.
Yeah.
Because I don't know how much longer it's going to be this crowded, given the fact that the writer's strike and the SAG-AFTRA strike is still going on. What was your reaction to National Cinema Day? You can even reiterate what you said earlier about how you're already planning on seeing a couple movies. Then
I'm excited for it. It's what was I gonna say? I think it's a great time to go to the theater if you need to catch up on anything, because you get to see it in any format. So for any of you who just haven't seen what's it called? If you haven't seen Oppenheimer in IMAX, this is the best time to do it. Honestly, for $4,
true.
For $4, you're getting a steal with that movie of quality. If you've been wanting to rewatch, I was trying to think, man, do I want to spend the whole day at the movies? But no, I have school. If I didn't have school, I honestly would. Because I would do my 3 movies, and I'd be like, screw it. If I gotta pay, for one, or if my friends want to come with, it's only $4. I would rewatch Barbie, Team NT. I would go see new stuff that's released. It's an exciting time to go. As of now, I'm planning to go see Blue Beetle. After discovering this, that D-Box will also be $4, I kind of want to also tell my friends, hey, what if we do a double feature in D-Box? Blue Beetle and Gran Turismo. Just to get, a sense of how it feels. What it's also good for, it's just good to, experience a different format of movie. To make you actually probably think, hey, maybe I'll go check out a movie next time in this format, because you might have been blown away by it. If you saw something in D-Box like Gran Turismo, you might be like, man, maybe I should go see the next, Fast and Furious in D-Box. If you go see Christopher Nolan's Oppenheimer in IMAX, you might be like, damn, maybe I should go see Dune Part 2 in IMAX. Stuff like that, it helps you just get a chance to experience those formats and to kind of value them and see the difference of an experience that they can make for any kind of movie, whether it be a blockbuster or something as artful and dramatic as Oppenheimer, whatever it may be. It's just a good time to go and experience movies and really kind of just have movie magic happen to you all over again.
You brought up a really good point too, because it's been proven now too, even done with exit polls and stuff, that Barbie and Oppenheimer was a lot of people. It's hard for people like us to conceptualize. I've been going back to the movie theater since May of 21 when I was fully vaccinated, but it's funny when you think about it, though. Barbie and Oppenheimer, for a lot of people, was their first movie back to the theater since the pandemic began. 3.5 like whole years without going to the theater, which I know for nerds like us is unfathomable, but for a lot of people that was absolutely the case. So that alone kind of reinvigorated the interest of going to the theater for these event movies that also, too, which is kind of ironic given the fact that Blue Beetle isn't doing very well. It's like, this is like the kind of success Hollywood used to have routinely when it wasn't tethered to this Marvel and DC cinematic universes.
Yeah.
And, you know, like these like original movies that were event movies to go see in the theater. It's reinvigorated interest. And like you said, too, maybe for National Cinema Day, people go to IMAX or go to D-Box or go to Dolby. Dolby's another underrated format. For, you know, locations like mine that do not have IMAX. We do have a Dolby theater in the mall. For a lot of people, though, maybe they haven't experienced those formats ever or just haven't experienced them in years since pre-pandemic levels. I think this is an excellent opportunity to get reacquainted with those formats, too.
It is. It's a good way, yeah, like you said, we were both saying here with the formats. And just overall, I mean, it's a good way just to catch up on what you've been missing out. Take advantage of this day. Like, honestly, really do. Because, like Steve said, who knows how much longer we'll have this good of plethora of movies to choose from when you go to the theater. I mean, like, seriously, like,
it's true.
If I were to pull up right now, let me just go to any movie theater, that's right by me. Let's go to this one. If I were to pull up any movie theater right now, let me go to Sunday as well, and just be like, man, what should I go see? The amount of movie selections that are there, it's pretty good. Like, I mean, hell, I think, yeah, Mario is being re-released, actually, for some reason. I don't know why. But, yeah, I mean, dude, you have Gran Turismo, which is a brand new release. You go see a brand new release for $4. Barbie, one of the best movies of the year. Oppenheimer, one of the best movies of the year. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, one of my favorite movies of the year. Hell, if you're into horror, talk to me. If you didn't see Mission Impossible because it came out the worst possible time, go see Mission Impossible. I mean, God, dude, there's just so much. Asteroid City is still there. The Little Mermaid's coming back to theaters. Yeah, so Super Mario will be there as well. And there's just a lot. If you're in the Bollywood, the one by my house has a ton of Bollywood movies. But if you love Bollywood, go see your Bollywood films for $4. Hell, go see the Meg 2, The Trench, for $4. I don't recommend anybody seeing that movie, but for $4, if you want to go watch a giant shark eat people, go ahead.
I don't recommend seeing Back to the Strip because I think in 2 months it's going to be on Tubi.
It's not even at the theater I just talked about. I went up and down.
Is it really? I think it's done in Dubuque over here. It's done I think on Friday. Friday, which I guarantee I might be. I'd like to go and ask the theater manager I know over there. I'm willing to bet I'm the only person who bought a ticket for that whole thing out here. I am willing to bet that. I'm probably one of the 10 that. I'm probably one. You know what's funny? I wrote to try to get a screener and they never got back to me.
All right.
you know what I mean? Like I was pissed. I actually tried to get a screener for it and I was like shut out. You know what I mean? So I was
like,
aggravated.
The Flash gave me a screener, but not Back to the Strip.
Warner Brothers is letting me do a giveaway of digital copies of Barbie on my radio show. Like, you know, and I'm like, I can't. Oh, but GVN releasing won't give me Back to the Strip. You know what I mean?
That's
Pissed
funny.
me off. But I just thought that was funny. I thought that was worth mentioning. And I'm just doing a quick while we're in the very twilight of the show. You know, it's funny the box office numbers weren't even reported for it. I just looked at Box Office Mojo.
Oh, damn. Dude, you might have been the only purchase in general.
That you know what, the last time that happened, it really wasn't like super long ago, but the last time that happened was Rally Road Racers, the animated movie I saw back in May. It's from the same company that did Space Chimps. And they didn't post their box office results for like the first 4 weeks. And then I was randomly on the numbers.org and I was messing around and I found that in like a month of release, that thing made $50,000.
Okay.
$250,000. Now think about it. Shortcomings made 315 opening weekend.
That's crazy.
You want to talk about the real shortcomings. You want to talk about the real shortcomings at the theater. At any rate, that is our show today. A good show it was. It could have only been better one way if our boy Dominic Guanzon had joined us this evening.
True, yeah. And we had Jimmy Totoro in a movie, and he didn't show up.
That's right. Yeah, he would have definitely brought that up. That's his boy. That's like to him what Michael Shannon is to me. Like, that is his boy right there. But you are off next week. Me and Dom will be talking Blue Beetle, which I would really. I mean, you just said you were familiar with the character, even even in the comic book days and stuff. I'm gonna miss your perspective on this one.
If you want to, I will leave it up to you. If you guys want to push it back a week and like have you guys review Gran Turismo this weekend instead, like, that's fine by me. I can bring up my perspective on it and everything, but that's if you really want to save it for Blue Beetle.
We shall see.
Okay.
We shall see. TBD. We'll play it by ear, maybe decide this weekend if that is the direction we want to go for the show.
Okay.
And we will be sure to make that clear as well.
Okay.
Especially at showtime, at the start of showtime there. But that's our show tonight. Highlights be posted on the YouTube channel on which you are watching this show. I want to thank you, Joe, for obviously doing the slider and everything like you normally do and stuff. Going to miss you next week and whatnot. But we'll be back next week reviewing something. Either it's Gran Turismo or Blue Beetle, TBD. We'll figure that out in our group chat, in our Sleepless with Steve group chat. Until then, great show tonight. Feels like it went by super fast. And it really did. It really did. No OT tonight for the first time in a long time, too.
Yeah, for real. I think all summer long. This is the earliest we finished.
For Joe Viso, the unseen but still loved Dominic Guanzon, and yours truly, this has been Sleepless with Steve.